Okay. So again, I am Dr. Pam Turner. This is the 28th of January, and this is Academic Coaching for World Changers. And tonight we're discussing careers. So oh my God, there's so many questions at careers. I can't, Dr. Pam, I can't. Not true. Not true. The test is divided up into certain ways, and definitely you have to know careers. If you tutor with any of us individually, you know that we always start with careers, because careers is one of the things that you cannot use in the real world. Super is history. Super looked at what happened when you think of like Archie Bunker. I used to say Bewitched, but most of my clients don't know. But long time ago, you know, before there was like 17,000 channels, there was 3 channels. And there was this show that came on, and she was a witch, and she could wiggle her nose and clean the house. And her husband, Darwin, he worked for corporate America. And all he ever wanted to do was work really, really hard and get the big office. Okay. If we talk about, you know, All in the Family, look at Archie Bunker, right? Did Edith ever ask Archie if he was happy at work? Not at all. So I needed to keep that time frame. So the only one we still use would be Holland. Holland is a RIASAC. And we do know that that is the one we can still use. I mean, if you probably took the RIASAC test way back when, or in graduate school, we still use that. And not that he wrote it for everybody, but what it has been shown is that it does work for women and people of color. So when you're looking at the history things, it has nothing to do with here and now, nothing at all. We talk about Godfrey sum, like circumscription and compromise. Anybody in the group like under 30? Give me a hand. Alejandro? Did you ever hear there's a job you can't do because you're a female?
I wouldn't say directly, but I feel like I did feel some type of judgment.
Did anybody at school or your mom and dad say, you can't do that because you're a girl? Okay. So usually that's not the case. My daughters are 25 and 20, and it never dawned on them they couldn't do something because they were a girl. That has ever crossed their mind. And what happened though, in my age group, I'm 57, so that means I graduated from college before most of you were even born. I remember definitely from high school, the recruiter came to high school, and he said, you know, you can jump out of airplanes. And I went home and I said, my mom, oh my gosh, I want to jump out of airplanes. I want to join the Air Force, jump out of airplanes. And my mama said, girls don't do. This was 83, again, before you were all born. And that was so true. Girls didn't do that. So when you're studying Godfrey's son, her circumscription, how you were shaped, and the compromise you make, it's history. So just understand we're studying history. It doesn't apply to now. Super says that you should be in your career, fully in your career, established by the time you're 25. How well did that work out for most of y'all? Okay, maybe Alejandra, because she's still young. Maybe she's in her career at 25. I don't know. But for most of us, that did not work out. And I'm a very traditional college student. Okay, so I had my master's when I was 24. I had my license when I was 25, and I've been in the career field forever. Okay, that's rare. I know all of you are just, you know, that's rare. That's rare, very rare. So when we look at super, what we're trying to remember is time frame. He used like the word vocational. Whenever I see the word vocation, I know automatically that means history. Okay. So I'm going to just ask a couple of questions in general, if you'll answer my chat box. So what we say, if you really know the theories, if you really know what I'm talking about, you can answer my questions. Oh, here's what I get. I'll know it when I see it on the test. No, you won't. Sorry. It sounds good and all, but that is so not true. So career pattern study. What theorist does that belong to? Put it in the chat box, guys. Career pattern study. So, I only really care about the first 2 or 3 people because everybody else is just like copying. That's groupthink, right? Groupthink is you're just going to respond to what everybody else says. Okay. So I'm going to call on somebody. Are you all prepared? Lucas, Lucas, are you there? Come on down. Hello, Mr. Lucas. Okay. Unique Rose, I know you're there because you was answering questions earlier. Dr. Pam,
I am
don't
here,
call
but I
on
don't
me. Don't
know.
call on me. Oh my gosh. I can't see you. Can I see you?
No, I'm having some problems right
Wow.
now.
Girl, can I go first and tell you my list of problems? So
I'm
honestly,
unsure of the answer.
okay, and thank you. I'm a college professor by that's what I do, and what I know is my students that in my online class that don't have their cameras on, that are not engaged, don't learn as quickly as my other students. So I'm not trying to call you out. I'm going to call everybody out. I do this all day, every day. And in college, in this class, you paid to be here. You better get everything you can that you paid for. You better ask me 17,000 questions because you paid to be here. So don't waste your money or your time. And not you in general, just in general. Okay. So the career pattern study belongs to super. Okay. If we look in the Helwig book, and that's the one that I always use, career pattern belongs to super. Let's see who answered that. Norvette. So tell me, what does that mean? How do you know that's the right answer?
Well, I studied it and I've been going back because I'm getting ready to test.
Okay.
That's when he did that study on 9th graders. And he studied them in the 9th grade, and the study was if they were successful in the 9th grade, that they would possibly be successful as they got older. And he studied them until they got in their 30s.
Absolutely. So first of all, yeah,
ring the bell.
sure. Okay. So the career pattern study does belong to super. You're absolutely right. And what he was studying is his own theory. So remember, super said, if you start off at that, so CSI, right? Those are the stages. And I'm sorry, that's the learning task. And the stages, the levels would be that gemmed. So that's where his theory came from, that he looked at the students, he's looked at students as young as 9th grade. And he said, when the time you're at 9th grade in high school, you should be in what stage? By 9th grade, I should be crystallized.
Crystallization.
Exactly. I should have an exact idea of what I want to do. Does that not seem bizarre to some of you? Are you talking to me?
It does for me, Dr. Pam, only because the crystallization says it starts at age 14. So why is super saying he started when they were in, well, 9th grade is that age level.
14. Absolutely. I apologize. Someone's
Okay.
at my door.
No, I
My
apologize.
dog is barking. So no, I apologize. I don't know. DoorDash, Uber Eats, Instacart seems to show up like all times a day. I don't know how it happens. It just does. So I do. And my dogs have Pavlov. They have paired the doorbell with someone bringing food. I don't know where they came from. Okay. So absolutely. And it is bizarre. So it doesn't matter that it's bizarre. It's just what super thought. And this whole test is about studying theories. Okay. So it's said that theories are like bottoms. Everybody has one. Does it make it right or wrong? No. For the test, I just have to know the theory. So according to super, and again, we're going back to, do you see my screen? Okay. So we're going back to, again, this was written in the 60s. Oh, look at that. 1957. Wow, 57. Even I wasn't born then. I know, like, I know she's old, but even I wasn't born then. So his theory said, again, we're looking at upper middle class white men. So when you were in high school, you were supposed to know what you were going to do. 14 to 18 are those high school years. So if we look at the level and the task is crystallization. Have a very clear idea of what you want to do. And then you're going to be in that, of course, the exploration stage. Okay, those are the stages. These are the tasks I'm supposed to learn. So let's see here. Jan, I know it's your first day. When you were 15, what were you thinking about?
Boys.
Actually, getting a job, a summer job.
Okay, I wasn't quite there. I wasn't until 16, but I'm just saying, I was thinking, how do I get these boobs to grow? I want like the other girls have. Like, okay. So I wasn't thinking about no career at that time. And most of the guys weren't either. So remember, it doesn't matter though. Until you say, according to Abigail or Marcy or Brandy, it doesn't matter. Super said in that time frame in the early 60s, that is what men should be doing, is getting prepared to have a career. Because once I graduate from high school, then I'm going to specify. So specify may have been the military, specify may have been college, it may have been trade school. But at that time, when I finish high school, I should know exactly what I'm supposed to do. Do you think super knew the term gap year? Hello? No, gap year, what? No, that's not an option. That's your generation. My generation didn't even think about gap year. My kid said, Mom, I think I'll take a year off. I'm like, excuse me? That's not really what I said. Probably some 4-letter words after that. However, that was, whoa, not on my dime, you're not. So we're looking at history, just history. Okay. So I think of like Happy Days, and I know you're not old enough, the Fonz, right? Because he was so cool. And he had the Pinky Tuscadero, and she had like the leather, and she rode her motorcycle. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just pretend, because you're going to date me. I'll just pretend that you know what I'm talking about. But that was the time. That was the time we're talking about. So remember, if in high school, men were supposed to be prepared for their job. The military option really didn't come along till a little bit later, but you should have been prepared for a job when you're in high school. So now you specify as I'm in my program, whether it's college or grad school or even the military. So I'm going from very general. I started off college thinking, oh, I don't know what to do. But in those 4 years of college, I should have a very, very good idea of what I want to do. Because the minute I graduate from college at 21, I'm supposed to implement my career. Okay. Now, I'll tell you again, I share anecdotals just because I want you to remember, and I think I'm so much more fun than the purple book guy. So the year that I turned at 21, let's back up. I'm in the generation that my friends could drink at 18, and I missed the cusp. So I'm an October birthday. So all of my friends that graduated or turned 18 in June, July, all those days, they could go drink legally. I could not. So at 21, I was not trying to implement anything, but trying to get a fake ID. It was my only information. And again, you're probably not my age, but back then I didn't have pictures. All I needed was some black girl who was like, 5'8", around my height and weight, so I could use her fake ID. So, just saying, time frame, time frame, time frame. So when you're answering these career questions, don't use now. It's not about now. You're studying history. We can debate all day whether Christopher Columbus discovered America, right? But that's not the right test question. It says in 1492, Christopher Columbus discovered the ocean blue. So this is not the time to debate that. This is not about you. This is not about whether it's right or wrong. It's just it's learning what the theory said. That's all that matters. Okay. So I've implemented between the ages of 21 and 24. Now I am stabilized by the age of 25. Look at that. Look at that. 25. Anybody here close to 25? Len, how old are you?
26.
26. So you have your career and you're stabilized?
Nope, I wish.
You don't. Enjoy life. You got the rest of your life to figure out the bills and crap. Enjoy. Oh, but that's not according to Super. Super said between 25 and 35, you are stabilized. Okay. Again, doesn't matter. All that matters is what Super said. When we're studying theorists, all that matters is what that theorist said. So between 25 and 35, the task that you're supposed to learn is stabilization. Okay. The level that you're in at 25 between exploration and establishment. So by 35, you should be established in your career. Okay. So my next stage is after 35, that it's consolidated. That is the last thing I need to learn. Okay. So between 35 until I die, I don't need to learn anything else. So, but according to Super, when I was at the maintenance stage, or even if I am up, so you see that everybody died at like 70 back then. It was called disengagement. Bottom line is pretty much people died. Okay, that was a different time frame, and that's what we're studying is history. Okay, so what I know between 25 and 35, I am stabilized, and consolidation is then anything after 35. That is the last task I need to learn. Okay, so now I'm 57, and I teach college, and I'm a tenured professor, and all I pretty much got to do is show up and not touch a kid, and I'm good. Right? That's pretty much it. So according to Super, a lot of my colleagues are exactly where they're at. Okay. They're at the maintenance stage and they're just buying their time. Okay. According to Super, though, that's not what would happen back then. You work very hard until the exact day that you retire. I'm going to say to you, I work very hard every single day until I retire. Okay. But according to Super, that's what he said, that you work that hard up until the very end. So you might see a question that says, oh, hey, so, it's my last couple of days or my last couple of years. I just want to show up and get by. That is not what Super said. That you're going to work very hard up until the actual date that you decline or disengage. Okay. Remember also back in the day, you got a gold watch, you got a huge bonus check, and you had insurance to carry you until you died. Is that how it works now? Not at all. Adios, amigos. We're going to place you with a 25-year-old who makes less than you. Go and have a good life. But it's history. All we're studying is history. So Super has 3 different career theories, right? So, of course, this is the one that we talked about. This is life stages and substages. Sometimes we'll see life stages and life task. So I say jammed: growth, exploration, establishment, maintenance, and then decline or disengagement. If you've had or watched Dr. Joyce's videos, she talks about CSI. So she says crystallization, specification, implementation, and then the SC, South Carolina, CSI, SC. Again, those acronyms work as long as you know what that means. If you're getting there, you're like, what does that C mean? That's not going to help me. I have to know what happens in those stages. One of Super's career terms is role identity. What does that mean, and where does that come from? I'm trying to think who I taught careers to this week or recently.
Your parents,
Clarify.
maybe your mom can instill a certain career path for
sorry.
you.
Did Super say anything about mamas?
No, but
I
Ann
just
wrote-
saying.
I think Ann Rowe did or something, or
So Ann
Yeah.
Rowe talked about parenting. Absolutely. So Ann Rowe would not have said anything about role identity. Role identity belongs to Super. And it's important to know the verbiage of that particular theorist. Okay. Ann Rowe talked about fields and levels. Ann Rowe talked about the importance of knowing how I grew up, how my mother and my parenting, how they raised me is how I find my career. So when I talk about Ann Rowe, she talks about fields and levels. What does that mean? You can phone a friend, or you can just keep talking. Okay, come on, somebody. What does that mean?
Is that when like you are trying to fulfill your needs that you need met through your job? So
And now, where do those needs come from?
like how you were raised, like your childhood, like you're trying to fulfill that need. So if you
Absolutely.
had a very supportive mother, you need that in your job. But if you weren't given like nurturing, you'll probably be like an accountant.
Okay. So I'm gonna tell you, so I grew up, in a home, and we were physically cold in my house. We didn't always have the best insulation and the best heat. Is that what she means?
No.
Not at all. It had nothing to do with the temperature of my house. Nothing at all. It had to do with what my house was like. Physically, it was very cold, not gonna lie. But I'm a preacher's kid. Everybody was at our house all the time. Daddy was laying hands on people. That's a different story. But we had people in my house all the time. So I grew up in an environment that was very warm. Okay. So acceptance of the child, very loving, casual acceptance, maybe even sometimes overprotective. I'm the firstborn, I'm the only girl. So the rules were definitely different for me than they were for my brother. So according to Maslow, and this is her theory is based on Maslow, then as an adult, I need my career to match those, to meet those needs, right? So then those are the fields or the levels?
If it talks about the genetic part, it's the levels.
Tell me more.
It all depends on if your parent or your mother are skilled at something or not as skilled at something, whether they are
I lost you, but absolutely. And I wouldn't say your mother, because remember, then even Roe, women didn't count.
professional.
Okay. So exactly. So whatever level my parents were, most often my father, then I would repeat them. That's the same level. Okay. If my mother and father were doctors, I'd be a doctor. If my mother and father were computer technicians, I'd be a computer technician. So those are the levels I would take. Okay. So then that field is determined how mom and dad raised me. So if I grew up in a home that was a very cold home, again, not temperature wise, right? They were very emotionally rejecting to me, neglectful to me. We grew up in a home where people never came over. Okay. The major orientation was not towards people. So as an adult, to get that need met, then I'm going to find a career that meets that need. So then it'd be technology, it might be outdoor, and it might be science. That is Ann Rowe, fields and levels. Anne Rowe was a neo-Freudian. What does that mean?
Believed in Freud, everything that Freud talked about except the sex part. She didn't believe in the sex part.
And also the id. Give me 5 minutes. Okay. Give me and the id and the superego. Okay. So they believe that everything was unconscious. They just didn't believe in this id and the superego. Okay. That's a neo-Freudian. So you might see the question that says she's a follower of Freud, but that's not really true because she wasn't a follower of Freud. She did believe these were unconscious traits, though. Okay.
Can I ask a question about Roe?
40 degrees this morning. I don't know if I agree with that.
You said the levels is how you're raised. And what was the field?
Definitely not grass growing weather either.
Muted, Dr. Pam. Dr. Pam, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Okay. The levels were the where you were at the career hierarchy.
The career, I didn't hear you.
Career hierarchy. So whether you were unskilled or professional, those are the levels.
Okay.
And those
You
are
were
based
muted
on what
before.
mom and dad gave me. The genetic piece. If mom and dad were doctors, I'm going to be a doctor.
Okay.
Can you repeat that? You were muted before?
No. So it's recorded. And even when I was muted, before that I said it. So go back and watch the video.
Yeah.
So, nothing personal. It ain't about you, girl. I just want to get as much as I can get in, and it's recorded. So you can watch me 17 times. Okay. So that's Anne Rowe. Who's the other woman in the theory, guys?
Godfredson.
Women.
Ainsworth
Godfredson.
or something.
Oh, not under careers. Ainsworth is about attachment.
Got it.
Okay. When you're studying, remember there are 1,000 careers. You want to stay under the career people. That's what's important, is to know who's a career person. So then Linda, what do you have to say?
Well, Megan seems to like that a little bit more. She's less than I.
She was the circumscription.
He's talking that I don't think I want to hear. So I'm going to ask everybody to mute yourself unless you're speaking, because I'm not scared to call you out. So, okay. What did Linda say?
She was the circumscription in careers. She was the lady that said if you were a boy, you played with, your career was focused off of the boys, versus if you were a girl, your toys were based off of girl things. She had the 4 different levels, or circumscription and compromise.
Absolutely. So tell me, what does that theory mean? You're right there. You're telling me, but what was the premise of her theory?
That pretty much that boys would do boys jobs and girls would do girl jobs.
Okay.
Like the
Because
first
of
level
the
was like,
way that I was raised, because of the way that I was circumscribed. I say circumcised because it helps remember boys and girls. Okay. But circumscription means shaped. So the way that I was shaped as a child, not just by my parents, but by society in general, tells me what job I would get. Okay. This is in the early 70s. Okay. And I mentioned this earlier, right? So I don't think many of you would say, your mom would say, you can't do that, you're a girl. But in the time, in the early 70s, it was very clear there were girl jobs and there were boy jobs. So the way that we were raised, the way society raised us, told us what we could and could not do. From 3 to 5, it didn't really matter. Those were adult people and adult jobs. Okay. However, by the time I'm the age of 6, anybody got any 6-year-old children or grandchildren? Girls? Valencia, what do you get a 6-year-old for Christmas or for holidays? Birthday? A girl.
Me? I get them whatever they want.
Okay, back then.
Oh, back in the
when
day.
you were 6, Valencia, because I think you're
About a
older than
dog.
20. I'm just gonna say. Okay.
Yes, back then we got
six.
dolls. We got those dolls with the hair that you pull out and the string that you
Right.
pull them
That's
back
right.
in.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Oh, did you get like the fake makeup kits? The nails?
Yes.
Yes.
What about
So
the easy bake
girls are
oven?
supposed to
In
be
the
good
easy
mothers.
bake, yes.
Ovens.
That's my value society, right? As long as I can cook and look pretty at the same time. I mean,
Be able to comb some hair and cook.
exactly. You know, God gave me 2 daughters. Does he not know I didn't know how to do hair? I swear. That's why he gave me a good job. Like, really? So that's a different situation. However, so I'm the only Black woman in the world that got 2 daughters that didn't know how to do hair. Can't braid a lick. Okay. Anyway, back to the story. So for 6, we're circumscribed to what society says. And little girls at 6 are taught, right? Look pretty, be cute, learn how to cook. I'm 57, so I'm old. Okay. So I graduated from high school in 83, before many of you were even thought of. And my mother clearly said to me, I need to cook. And it was always taught that I need to be pretty, need to be a lady. I know you're not old enough, but I had to wear slips. I had to wear slips. And I know you're like, what the heck is that? Back in the day. And you had to wear a full slip too, because, you know, something you didn't want the boys to see what might be underneath. So now I start middle school. Middle school, I learned my value to society. Okay. So little girls, again, now we're 10, 11, and 12. Okay. I'm going to try to think of someone who's over 20. Okay. I know that you're barely over 20, Angela. 22 maybe. But what did your mother teach you when you were 10, 11, 12 about how girls should behave?
So during that time, and I'm about a year younger than you are, so 10, 11, 12, you have your friends, but don't play with the boys. Boys don't want to be just friends.
And it's my job to keep them from getting my cookies.
Exactly.
Right, that's my job. So even if we look at dress code in middle school, right? We tell the girls, don't you be wearing spaghetti straps. The boys may look and you'll disturb the boys from learning, and it's all your fault, girls. So again, that's the theory of the time. And I am not debating right or wrong. I'm just sharing anecdotals with you to help you remember time at the time. At the time, that was the rule. Okay. So girls were taught their value of society was to keep the boys from getting your stuff. Keep your legs closed. Right. Birth control was aspirin. Put aspirin between your knees. Okay, just me. I'm sure you guys didn't hear that. Okay, so
Legs
now I'm
closed
going to,
and dress down.
That's right. That's right. Did you learn to cross at the ankles and not at the knees?
Yes,
Ladies
you couldn't
cross
put
at
your
the
legs up.
ankles.
Yeah,
Exactly. Don't cross at the knees because they might see something.
I see it. Yeah.
Exactly, because my job is to guard. Because anyway, boys have no control. You women, you're in control of everything. So, but again, theories from the past. So then the last stage is now I'm in high school. And if I've learned this my whole life since I started elementary school, and not only at home, community, school, everyone else said, don't be fast. I saw Pam talking to boy. She was fast. Okay. So now in high school, I've internalized that. I believe that. I believe that my job is to be not quite as smart as the boys, right? Because if you're too smart, the boys won't like you. So her theory is that I've learned that. So now that I graduate from high school, the goal is I'm going to find a job that is going to stay in the rules that I learned. Make sense? Okay. So again, part of the problem with career, a lot of my students think. You can't think. This is not a thinking test at all. What you have to remember, this is about history and understanding history. It's not about now. It's about the history of careers. Okay. I'm going to pull up some questions, guys. Is there anything particular that you'd like to ask me as I pull up these questions?
Could you go over compromise, please?
Nope. Yes, I can. So somebody help me out. What is compromise? Really? Nobody knows the answer? So Godfrey's son said there is a theory of the zone of acceptable tolerances. I will stay in my zone. So the compromise is I'm going to stay where I'm supposed to stay. Okay. So she called it my zone of acceptable alternatives. You see my screen? Okay. So what in a test question, what it may look like is Pam has been there for 12 years and Pam has not been promoted. And when she ever asked her boss, he says something like, oh, we don't have the money. But in those 12 years, Pam has seen 6 men promoted. Pam's not going to say anything because Pam is going to stay in her zone that's acceptable. Because Pam was raised that girls don't make a fuss. Girls don't say anything. Girls stay in their zone. Okay. So female truck drivers are very much a now thing, right? There are a lot of female truck drivers. Have you ever seen the female's picture on the side of the truck? If I own the trucking company, my truck, you ever seen the picture of her? And some of them are hot. I've seen them like that girl. Who's stepping out in her 4-inch heels and a little short skirt. But I've never seen her picture on the side of the truck because that's a man job. That's a man job. So what the zone of the compromise says is I'm going to stay in where I'm supposed to stay. Okay. So male nurses, right? We have lots of male nurses, but you haven't seen a picture of the head of nursing for any major department with the picture of the male on the side. So that's what it says. I will stay in my compromise. I'll stay in my area. I'll stay what's comfortable for me. Give me 1 second, guys.
Is anyone testing in February?
No, are you, Kia?
No, like I said, I already took it and I didn't pass it by 2 points. So I have to wait the 90 days. So February is my window open. So I just wanted to see if anybody was testing this month coming up.
Right.
Yeah. How are you able to reschedule so quickly? I know you had to wait 90 days, but I didn't pass in December. How were you able to get it back that quickly? You just went back on and just bought the test and just scheduled it?
So what I did was, my test was in October. It was in October. So immediately after, because I wasn't trying to wait. I didn't know I had to wait for the 90 days. So immediately I went to just pay the fee and they were like, you have to wait. And I was like, well, I guess you already got my money. So.
Okay, so that's what I didn't do. I didn't rebuy it. I went on a website, but then they launched that new one where everything is combined together. Like, so I had to make a new account, which I did. I didn't purchase another exam. So now I know I can do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I might have to call because I know that Dr. Pam had mentioned accommodations and it's so
I had that too. I had a
it's so
conversation.
complicated to ask
is.
for accommodations. Like
Yep.
It's not that difficult. It really isn't.
uh,
I
Like-
had to go to my doctor. That's why.
I know. I mean,
Oh,
but I mean, if I need more time, what's my reason? I just got comprehensive.
you, what's your name? I'm sorry, this is Cecilia. What's your name?
Mine?
Yes,
Jen.
Jen, I'm sorry.
That's
I was gonna tell you my story. I talked to my doctor and she told me to just write down what I want and she'll fill it out. So you just have to talk to your doctor, have that relationship with your doctor that they'll fill out. Basically, you fill it out. A lot of them don't want to fill it out. They want you to fill it out. So you put down exactly what you want. If you want extra time, you want a certain type of chair or whatever have you, you have to put it down in black and white exactly what you want and what you need for that extra time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because here, I don't know if you all have my chart where you are, but like we have my chart. And I sent my information to my doctor and she was like, you know, I know your situation and your circumstances. So I started out with, you know, the bare minimal. Well, this last time I got really sick and passed out and was in there for 5 hours and nobody came to check on me. Like I was literally passed out in the facility during the testing. Nobody came to check on me. So this time when I went back, I said, look, you know, I'm kind of terrified of going. I had like a case of PTSD going back in there. But after Dr. Pam them explained what happens when you like test at home, like you can't stare or look around and all of that, I didn't want to really take it at home. So I was like, well, maybe if I just go and have a private room and things of that nature. And I really got on to them about, because it's not about me now, it's about this happening to someone else. And you're watching us and frisking us like we're prisoners, but you're not watching for people to get ill. So just being who we are as advocates, you know, I made sure that they knew. And my doctor was like, yeah, I'm afraid too. Tell me exactly what it is that you need from me. And I did that, and I did it in my chart, and she wrote it out, and she really got on to them as well. So just have that rapport with your doctor. Let them know what it is that you actually need. Be specific and why, and what your medical, mental, physical, whatever it is, need is. And then they'll gladly do it for you, and you can upload it to the website and be done. You don't need to fill out one of their forms. You can just upload a letter from your doctor.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Felicia. I think I said your name right. I just did the letter, and the first time I got the extra time. This time I end up I'm getting the extra time, the private room, and a reader.
Okay, so you can ask for a reader too?
Yes, I asked for a
Oh,
reader.
that's a good idea. I think I'm
and
gonna do that too.
all I did was I wrote a letter. I didn't fill out any of their forms. I had my doctor to write a letter, and I sat right there for her to write the letter, and she told me, what do you want in the letter? And me and her wrote the letter. She signed it, and I uploaded and sent it, and I got approved.
Okay, okay.
Good, wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Now, my only problem is this time is I think they're kind of mad at me. So I've been waiting to get approved now for almost 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you have to send it to your state first. Once they approve it, then they'll send it to Pearson View, because I made the mistake of sending it to the NBCC first, and then they told me I had to send it to my state board. So that's the mistake I made the first time.
It still takes time though, Victoria, because I had that same situation as well. It was like another month of wait, and another month and 3 months.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna say it really depends on the state, and they're really not out to get you. I promise you they're not out to get you. It depends on the state. I have seen some states that turn it around within 24 hours. I've seen some states that take 6 to 8 weeks. So I do suggest 6 to 8 weeks. If you haven't heard from them, then you need to call back and say, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard anything from you. They're not out to get you. They're not out to get you. They're not. Do they like giving you the accommodations? No. But it doesn't matter. That's the law. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter. It does not have to be signed by a medical doctor. It can also be signed by a mental health practitioner. So don't think it has to be signed with a doctor. And I do say fill it out yourself, because when a student asks me for a recommendation or a student asks me to do something, just fill it out yourself and make my life easy. I'm more likely to sign it than I am to sit down and write a whole statement. Okay, if I disagree with what the student tells me, I will say something. But in general, if you want me to get it done and done quickly, make it easy for me. Okay, but they're not out to get you. They're not. Do they like it? No, but it doesn't matter. Mind you, that the accommodations that you're asking for. So I tutor all the time. I've tutored blind and deaf students. I tutor someone who's both blind and deaf, who still gets to take the test. Okay, the biggest accommodation I've ever seen, I've probably said it before, is someone who got double time in 2 days because they had a back injury and could not sit there for 4 hours at the same time. So they got double time in 2 days. So don't be afraid to ask. You just need some medical background, some psychological background to prove it. Nobody has test anxiety. Sorry. You have anxiety. You have generalized anxiety, free floating anxiety, not necessarily paired to just the test. You have anxiety. The test can increase your anxiety, right? So that's what you want to say. So you don't actually have to have GAD. They don't have to write that number down. But you want to say that because of overall generalized anxiety, when I'm in a testing room, I freak out. And I suggest that you Google the words for generalized anxiety and use that medical or the behavioral terminology. The person who reads your accommodations is not a clinician. Sorry, she's probably a secretarial, or he is like probably a secretarial level person. Okay, but I promise you test anxiety is just not enough. There's no such thing as test anxiety. You have anxiety. And then according to Pavlov, you have paired the test with anxiety that's increased your anxiety. Make sense? And I'm a huge fan of accommodations. And if you say, I don't want to, I always just remember that many of us have had professors, doctors, teachers, dentists that I struggle to understand their English. And they had to pass a test in the United States to get their license. They had some accommodation. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap you guys up. I'm going to go to some questions. One of the things about careers, I said specifically, it's really very much about history, learning the history. Okay. Just looking back of how it started in history. Let me just kind of go back and just share my screen and just give you a little history lesson, and then we'll look at some questions. In general, no matter what we're looking at, no matter what theory we're looking at, it's going to be upper class white men. Okay, so if the question says, why did we develop any test? It has nothing to do with segregation. It has nothing to make sure that the people of color can read, and nothing to make sure that women could read. Nothing at all. History, history, history. That's why I always want to keep it in the time frame. Here, my screen. Okay. So just again, as we look at that history of careers, what we know is that So vocational began at the beginning in the early 20th century. What year would that be?
$1900.
Absolutely. Remember the time frame. Frank Parsons wrote his book in 1909. This says 1908. Most studies say 1909. I'm sorry. Were you guys thought about it back then? Were y'all parents thought about it in 1909? Keep it in perspective, okay? So we study the theorists, the Freuds, and all these other people. We can apply those. Career counseling is just history. Can I bill for career counseling?
Yes.
You cannot.
Yes.
What DSM code is career counseling? And note. And if you see a question that a client, a counselor says that she works with people who are anxious about their career and she gives them a diagnosis of GAD, that's unethical. You cannot bill for career counseling. Okay, so the people that work in career counseling must often work at a school or voc rehab or a specific company that they work on career counseling. So most of you slept through this class.
You have it.
If you even had it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So what we know is the founding fathers were, when it came to that trait and factor, was Frank Parsons. Frank Parsons was the father of vocation. A few years after that came another guy, E.G. Williamson. What did he do, guys? Come on, come on.
Minnesota Viewpoint.
Absolutely, absolutely. Was he trait and factor?
Yes.
So what made him different than Parsons?
He refined.
Oh, he did not. But it sounds good. Sounded really good.
Well, he had the 6-step approach to counseling.
He said that you're right. You don't need to know those 6 steps. Okay. What he said is it was a problem. It was a problem that needs to be diagnosed. Okay. At that point, there was no RIASAC, no plan of how to measure trait and factor. Parsons came first and hey, let's look at the people if they know themselves, they know the career should match. E.G. Williamson came along later and said, hey, that makes some sense. He was a little bit Freudian. There were some unconscious pieces there. And he also worked for the University of Minnesota. That's the Minnesota Viewpoint. He also was that we needed to kind of diagnose and fix the problem. Okay. Jesse B. Davis, he took the test before. Have you seen his name? Usually not, usually not. Okay, but he did vocational education. So what had happened was 1913, the National Vocation Guidance Association was established. But the bigger deal was in 1957. Russians beat us to the moon. And you know, this is when Americans thought we was the bestest. And them the Russians, right? They beat us to the moon. Oh my gosh. If you ever go back in YouTube or watch any footage, that was like blasphemy. America was the best, and how dare those people beat us to the moon. It was big deal, big deal. So at that point, that is when we really came up with the NDA, the National Defense Education Act. That was money that was put into the school systems, that was put into training to get the best and brightest from high school. That is where we came up with the ASVAB, the aptitude test to get the best and brightest from high school. Okay, so the final event to solidify career counseling as a profession was 1957, the launch of Sputnik by the Russians, the USSR. We came up with the NDAA, and the goal was again to put money into school systems to prepare kids to be more prepared. We wanted the best and the brightest from high school. Okay. Before that, World War II, there was a GI Bill. We still have a GI Bill. Somebody tell me what that is.
Isn't that when like veterans get money?
It's the
excuse me.
bill that
Thank you.
pays for military for schooling.
Absolutely.
educational funds?
Absolutely.
Funds.
Absolutely.
You pay
absolutely.
into it.
Okay. So the goal was that once you finish your time in the military, and again, it wasn't free, you paid into it, and then you could use that money to go back and get extra education. Okay. At the time, again, who was in the military? White men. And then during the war, there might have been some black men, but that's not a question that we're going to see on the test, right? So it really was about white men. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. So then we look at trait and factor. So trait and factor is Parsons and E.G. Williamson. They were both first. Knowing if you know yourself and you know about the job, then those should match. Okay. Parsons did not have a working theory though. Who had the first working theory when it came to trait and factor?
Was it Parsons, Frank Parsons?
The working one, the one that we could use every day, would be Riasac. And that belongs to who?
Holland.
Holland, absolutely. So we're going to divide our theorists up into trait and factor, developmentalists. Trait and factor means know who I am, understand myself, understand the career, and those should match. Okay. Anybody take this back in the day or yesterday or give it yesterday? It's the one that we still use. It was not written for people of color. It was not written for women, but we still use it. Riasac has known to be tried and true. Sometimes we'll see the Holland's hexagon. Okay. So the way Riasac works, let me ask somebody. Abigail, how does Riasac work? Dang, I know I should close my camera.
You answer the questions and then they kind of grade it and you get letters if you're realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, or conventional. And
hold on.
You have a
so in the
code.
beginning, the strong interest inventory or the vocational preference, somebody else graded it. With the SDS, right? That was the first time it was computerized. So you put your answers in, the computer kind of spit out your answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what are my, so I get differentiated and undifferentiated. If I get 3 letters that are really high, what does that mean?
That you have you're strong in these and they're usually next to each other.
Oh,
So,
look at you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it would be very strange for someone to be conventional and artistic. So that would be not a normal thing. So it's sort of like in a hexagon, and the letters Riasac stand for those things. So they're usually ones that are close to each other.
Absolutely. So when I get the score, I get my interest code. So my highest letters are the ones I'm good at. So RIA, SEC, those are the highest ones that I'm good at. And as she said, that let's hold up for that one there. So realistic, what kind of jobs are those? Anybody?
The gardener.
Hands-on, hands-on, hands-on. I like things more than I like people.
Yes.
Okay. Investigative is everybody in this room. So a client came in last week and you got to ask them how much money they make. Do all your kids have the same baby daddy? Right? That's what we get investigated. We get paid to ask those questions your mama told you not to ask. How's your sex life? Were you abused as a kid? Are you sure that that's your daddy? We get paid for that. Investigative. So yes, there are other people, other careers are investigative, but definitely investigative are going to be my counselors. All right. Okay. So my artistic people are people with some artistic talent. So that can be like the rappers Martha Stewart, anyone that's, so I really love to cook. I love to cook and I love to make it pretty. I like to do that. So I'm a bit artistic. Had friends over on Thursday for dinner, you know. I made like the poke cake. I made a chocolate cake and I poked and put in like the white icing. And then I used my piping tool and I piped like the white and black strings off, lines off the top. You pipe it, you take the fork and you like measure this, make it look pretty. I love that. I'm a little bit creative, artistic. Okay. Then social. All of us are social. If you do not like people, you need to drop this profession and this license right now. Just get to stepping. Okay. Enterprising. What are enterprising people?
Extroverted.
Not necessarily. Well, probably.
Not necessarily abstract, maybe more abstract.
Entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs. I'm gonna sell you everything. Okay. So
Entrepreneur.
I own a business. So if someone emails Prudence and says, do you think that I should buy the bundle and take all of Dr. Pam's classes? What is Prudence trying to say? Yes. Okay. We are business. It's a business. We are here. I got staff to pay. I got bills to pay. I got tuition coming up. We are a business. Entrepreneurs are people who are going to try to sell you things. The used car salesman, the lawyer, the politician, the girl at Macy's who's trying to get me that perfume that costs $75. Those are my entrepreneurs. Okay. Enterprising. They're trying to sell you something. And then conventional. Okay. I talked to someone today. I don't remember who I talked to, and they told me they knew exactly how much money they have in their bank account to the penny. I can go to my app right now and look, but I cannot tell you off the top of my head. I can tell you, I paid the bills this month. Right? In the month, we're good. I made payroll for my staff. I did okay. But I can't tell you much else. So my conventional people, accountants, court reporters, insurance, medical records, banking, data processing. They can tell you exactly what day you made your last payment.
More detailed oriented people.
They're very detailed, but it most often has to do with money.
Money, keep up with the numbers. The numbers have to match type of people.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
If I was your banker, you'd just be screwed. I ain't gonna put it out there. I'm like, you know what? You're missing $50,000. I don't really know what happened. I ain't gonna spend all weekend looking for it because that is not my personality. So what he said though is know yourself, know the career, and those would match. That's Holland's hexagon. Okay. And so what we talked about earlier was the importance of what it looks like. So it matters what is where. So I think the Purple Book guy talks about it a little bit differently. I think he starts maybe not with the R. I don't really recall or care. But so remember, we want to know the order, RIASEC. So it's very unlikely that I'm going to be the one that is opposite of me. It can happen. It can definitely happen, but it's unlikely. So if I'm an R, it's unlikely that I'll be an S. I don't like both things and people. Okay. When I finished high school, when I finished undergrad, and I was going to graduate school, one of my girlfriends, she said, oh no, I'm not going to grad school. This again, old. This is like 1990, 89. It's like, no, I'm going to computer technology. She still makes mega bucks, but she doesn't like people. So for me, that there's not enough money for me to sit behind a computer all day and not get to talk to people. But that's just who I am, not bad or good, just who I am. So you're more likely to be the ones next to you. So to be a CRI is common, to be a RIA is common. To be an ASE is common. It's unusual to be both investigative and enterprising. Okay. So the big deal is a self-directed search. That was the first time it was computerized, and you did not need anyone to interpret for you what it meant. Okay. So when it comes to, so that is my trait and factors. When it comes to developmental people, developmentals are ages and stages. It doesn't matter whether or not it's a career person or it's a human behavior. If the ages and stages need to match, I'm called developmentalist. Freud was a developmentalist, right? Oral, anal, phallic, latent, and genital. You should have gone through those stages. So Ginsburg was first. Ginsburg had realistic. What else? What are his other stages? There were 3.
Fantasy and tentative.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Then somebody came along and expanded, stole, borrowed those stages. Who was that?
Was it super?
Super.
It was super. I'm just going to tell you, in the 50s, if I had taken Ginsburg's career and put my name on it, they would not have called it extending. I'd have been in jail. Just saying, right? Sampling, and is that what our rappers say? You sample the music. Okay, we'll go with that. But according to the test, he took Ginsburg theory. Ginsburg stopped at 20, and he then expanded it all the way up until adult. Okay. H.B. Jalot. The only thing you ever need to know about him is he is what? Positive. Positive.
Uncertainty.
Thank you. He said your future is uncertain and be positive about it. Okay. Bland happenstance belongs to Crumbles, but positive uncertainty belongs to H.B. Jalot. Yes, in all the study materials, you'll see a lot more about H.B. Jalot, but for the test, I've never seen anything other than knowing that you need to know it's positive uncertainty. Your future is uncertain and be positive.
Is he the non-decisional guy, Dr. Pam?
Repeat that, sir.
Non-decisional guy?
That's having SIRS. That's having SIRS. That's having SIRS.
Sorry.
Knowing some stuff. So having SIRS was a developmental guy. And depending on where you study from, you actually might see him under human development, or you might see him under careers. So having SIRS said that whole thing of like getting a career is like, he said, that's BS. What? You don't have to make a decision about career. He said you don't have to make a decision about anything in life. You just do it. So what he said is, in general, is we learn, we develop by society, community, and everyone around us. So he talked about early infant, learn to walk, learn to talk. Again, those are just normal human development stages. Did you have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to use the toilet? I don't recall that anywhere, right? So it's the same about careers. He said that when you're between the ages of 18 and 35, there's no decision. It's just what you do. You choose a life partner, you get a family, you take care of a home, and you establish a career. Decision. That is what people normally do at that age. So he is my developmentalist and also known as my non-decision-making theorist. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes. Okay. Paula, we talked about constructivist is Savika. Oh goodness, Mark was post-conventional. What did he do? He's still alive, by the way.
Can you repeat that question, Dr. Pam?
I said Mark Savickas. He's considered postmodern and a constructivist. What is his theory? And then I said he's still alive.
Wasn't it ecological?
Nope.
No.
I think
That
he's
is Ron
narrative.
Finbremer.
I think
Ah.
he's narrative.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
He's narrative theory, and it's like the stories you tell yourself and other people tell you, and you have to take that out of your mind and deconstruct it, and then you co-construct it and you put it back.
You are definitely in the ballpark. Okay. So constructivist theory, constructs are things we can't touch. Happiness, sadness, love, right? So what he said is all those theorists that talk about take a test, figure it out, get your job, was BS. That's also made up stuff. So those are constructs. So what he said is let go of that. And when it comes to your career theory, he used narrative therapy approach. So narrative therapy says whatever story you've been telling yourself, whatever story you've been told. Oh my gosh, I've got to be a doctor because everybody in my family's been a doctor. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. All of those things because it's always been that way. He said, look, all of that. That's a construct that somebody told you. So he wants you to rewrite your story. So in order to rewrite your story, in order to rewrite your story, then I have to first externalize it, take it out of my head. The story I've been telling myself the whole time, got to be a doctor, got to be a nurse. And I don't, I want to, I like to share real life stuff. So I had one of my, an intern, I was supervising an intern from from a 7-day Adventist college. And so she was also Vietnamese. And being Vietnamese and 7-day Adventist, she'd actually never even been to a public school. So I had to even talk to her about the bell rings and things like that. That was a totally different world for her. But her mom and dad were both doctors in Vietnam. And she was told she's going to be a doctor. She went to the local school and fell out of the pre-med program, and then she was in the social work program. Okay. The story that they had told her, the story in her head, was this was nice and all, go ahead and get this, but it didn't matter until you became the doctor. She was cute and sweet and so nice, but she did not quite have the IQ points to be a doctor. I'm just gonna put that out there. I told her the same thing. Okay. So, but the story that she was telling herself, or she'd heard over and over again, is you've got to be a doctor. So Savickas would say the story that you keep telling yourself, the story that your parents keep telling you, let it go. Right? So externalize that, take that story out of your head, right? Why do you have to be a doctor? Take it out, externalize it, deconstruct it, break it apart. Where did you hear this? Where did you learn that? And then rewrite your own story and put it back in your head. So that's narrative therapy. And Savickas, postmodern, meaning he's one of our newer theories. That is his theory based on narrative therapy. My test takers that have taken it before, do you recall ever seeing anything like that under careers?
No.
Savickas who? He's usually on the test because he's postmodern. He's a newer one. And again, he's still alive. So he's usually on the test. You might not have recognized his name. But if you hear externalize, rewrite, deconstruct, and it has to do with careers, that's going to be Savickas. Okay. Your super theories, Crumballs. Who was Crumballs and what did he do? I hope this is somebody today. I know I did. Okay, I thought it's like 17 people today, but one of you are in my group.
Is he the social learning guy?
Who's the social learning guy?
Crumbles? Wasn't he a follower of Bandura?
There we go. That's what we're looking for. Absolutely. Absolutely. So social learning theory, social cognitive therapy is Bandura. So Crumballs based his theory on the social learning theory. There were 4 tenets to his theory. Okay. And his test, his inventory is called what?
That's a career beliefs.
Guilt.
Absolutely. Yay. Okay, so the career belief is what he said is many of us have grown up in areas or with family members that, you know what, they didn't go to college. We didn't live in the best neighborhood. We didn't have all the best school supplies. I wasn't able to travel to Europe with my friends for spring break. And what he wanted you to, what the counselors to do is to challenge that belief system. Just because mom and them didn't go to college, does that mean you can't go to college? No. So that's the career belief inventory. He wanted the counselors to challenge the beliefs of the client. Just because you've never seen it doesn't mean it can't happen. Any first generation college grads in this group? What? Your parents didn't go to school? How dare you go to school?
Me, I am.
That's exactly what his theory says. Just because you've never seen it doesn't mean you can't do it. And he wanted the career counselors to always challenge that belief system. Okay. And what we know many times, like if we go back and talk about genogram and Bowen, projective identification, right? We project our stuff onto our kids. I didn't go to college and I turned out just fine. Why you need to go? So what he wanted us to do was challenge the beliefs of our client. Right? That is Crumballs social learning theory. There are 4 tenets to that theory. There's a genetic endowment and special abilities. Okay. So if mom and daddy didn't finish high school, you may not be the brightest one, right? You may struggle a bit. Does that mean you can't go to school according to Crumballs? No. Oh. He wanted you as always to challenge the client's belief system. Talked about Godfrey's son. Go ahead, question.
Do we need to know about planned happenstance?
We do. Tell me what that means.
I really don't understand it all the way. It's just like things can maybe happen and we need to be, I guess, positive about it, but I don't really know.
Positive uncertainty is different. Positive uncertainty belongs to HB
Gillot. Gillot. Mm-hmm.
Plan happenstance means have a plan. Brandy, I am pretty sure that you're a middle school guidance counselor, high school guidance counselor?
Middle school counselor.
Middle school counselor. You should make extra money because those kids stink and their hormones are racing. And anyway, however, so what he said is that, so that's your plan. You plan to be, I worked this out. I've been all these things, but should something come along tomorrow and they offer you something different, go for it. You've got a plan. This is what I'm doing. Don't live life all willy-nilly. Have a plan. But if something better comes along, it's okay.
This is my retirement plan.
So Randy, have you ever thought about working for corporate America when it comes to like the people that sell the books or sell the programs or things like that?
I have thought about that. Yes.
I'm just saying. So for me, growing up, that never dawned on me. I was in a training this week, and I work at the college level, and the person is trying to sell their program to us. And I'm thinking, this is corporate America. If my school buys this, she's gonna make mega bucks. It never dawned on me to do that.
Yeah, I can retire in 3.5 years, and I got a retirement plan.
He would say, if something better comes along before that, go for it.
Oh,
I'm not suggesting. I'm just telling you what his theory would say.
okay.
If someone came along and said, hey, you can work for corporate America and we'll pay you $300,000 for the next couple of years, you might rethink your plan.
I might. Yes, that's true.
That's what he said. Have a plan, but if something better comes along, don't be scared.
Okay, that helps me understand that. Thank you.
Okay. And I always want you to take everything we take back to real life. You guys do this all day, every day. I don't want you to pretend like it's some fake thing that we learn over here. You do it all day, every day, except for careers, because that's just stuff. Okay, number 1. See my screen? Put in your answer in my chat box, please. Who is considered the father of vocational guidance? He wrote the book about vocation. Jesse B. Davis, Frank Parsons, Donald Super, or John Holland? Chat box answers only, please. That would be Parsons, 1909. He wrote the book. But remember, he did not have a plan. He did not have a RIASAC. He didn't have a theory behind it. He just had a thought. Number 2, the 1944 GI Bill offered what services to soldiers returning from World War II? Free vocational assessment, support in joining the armed forces, teacher training, higher education, and training opportunities to veterans. That GI Bill, what did that bring? Absolutely. Higher education, D, and training opportunities to veterans. Perfect. Number 3, the NDEA, the National Defense Education Act of 1958, was launched in response to what event? The launch of Sputnik in the USSR, by the USSR, the end of World War II, high unemployment or war veterans, or concern for acts of terror. I know I have a couple of former military people in here. What was the law? What's the name of the law that we could like detain you and keep you after 9/11 just because you were afraid you might be a terrorist? What was that law? Nobody?
law
See,
that
my
they could,
husband is a lawyer.
You don't know it, Howard? It was the federal act. He doesn't know the name of it.
Anybody?
they could
Was it the Terrorist Act? Terrorist Act?
That wasn't the name of it, but the Patriot Act.
Act.
Yes.
The Patriot. Okay, the Patriot.
Patriot Act part in my group. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Patriot Act said, if you look like you might be a terrorist, I could just lock you up. I didn't write it. I'm just telling you what it was. Okay. So we used that after 9/11 because we were all afraid of anyone that may have looked the least bit Muslim, right? Because all Muslims bombed 9/11, right? I know, and I'm being sarcastic. Please don't call me out on YouTube. Do not face, oh my gosh, Dr. Pam said. I am not serious. I am just joking. But that was a typical American response of what happened, is because we weren't sure what was going to happen. So the Patriot Act said anyone that looked like they might be a terrorist. That's why when you even fly now, don't you dare say the word bomb. What's going to happen? Don't even joke about putting a bomb on the plane. They're going to get you. Okay. 4. In Donald Super, now I don't usually teach this one. I'm going to skip that one. Number 5, in adults, the maintenance stage is defined by what action? Finding one's career niche and advancing. B, preserving gains and developing non-work interests. C, preparing for retirement. Or D, narrowing my career choices. So in adults, that maintenance stage. Maintenance is a task or a level? CSI, CS are my task. GEMD, GEEMD is a level. So that maintenance stage is right before decline. And in that maintenance stage, despite how it looks like now, the maintenance stage, people worked as hard as they did up until the day they retire. Okay, so what's my answer for 5 in my chat box? Oh, I see some different answers. I don't know. What are we going to do with this one? Okay, let's rule out. Okay, I know it's not D, right? I'm not narrowing any career choices. That can't be it. I'll lose you guys.
I hear you.
Okay, make sure I didn't lose anybody. Thank you, thank you. So what's my answer there? Okay, so preparing for retirement. He did not say that we ever prepared for retirement. We worked up until the very, very end. There was no such thing as preparing for retirement. Okay, finding my career niche and advancing. That would be under stabilization. So my correct answer should be B. Okay. Number 6, Super Life Career Rainbow included which aspects of development? Now, in this test, it says choices A and B. Those who take in the real test know that's not even close to an option. That's not going to be there. But I do need to know what did Super's life, what did the rainbow tell me? Life roles, life spaces, self-concept, or A and B? Absolutely. Life roles and life spaces, A and B. So what space in my life do I get to play the role of a child?
All the way up until your parents pass away.
I know, I'm an orphan. Oh my gosh, both of my parents are dead. I'm an orphan. I don't get to play the childlike role anymore. Sad but true. I tell my adult children I'm an orphan, but they don't really care. I'm just saying, I don't want to hear that have parents. Mom and dad. Okay, right? So according to Super, I don't get to play the child role anymore because I don't have parents. Okay. 7. Assessments developed by John Holland include which of the following? Minnesota Occupational Rating Scale, Strong Interest Inventory, Self-Directed Search, Vocational Preference Inventory, C, the World of Work Map, or D, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the MBTI. Which one of these would belong to Holland? That is correct. That is correct. So let's call some people out. So then the Myers-Briggs belongs to which theorist started the Myers-Briggs, or what's the basis of the Myers-Briggs, Miss Baker? She's actually in church. I'm sorry. Remember, you guys are my life, and I have 2 dogs, and it's you and them. So what are your thoughts?
Hold on, I'm thinking.
You can phone a friend. Anybody want to help her out?
Okay, so I'm gonna phone a friend, and I am.
The Myers-Briggs is by Carl Jung. It's based on Carl Jung. Carl Jung actually had numerous archetypes, but the ones that the MBTI are based on are the major 4 archetypes. Carl Jung was a neo-Freudian, right? That means he didn't believe in that sex stuff, but he did believe in the unconscious. And you're not going to see a lot of questions on Carl Jung, but what you might see is he believed in the collective unconsciousness. So Freud said it was just my stuff in the unconsciousness. Carl Jung said it just wasn't my stuff. It was my mom and them stuff, my grandmom and them stuff that was all in my unconscious, and I keep just passing it on. It wasn't just me. Okay, so he believed in collective unconsciousness. And he had these 4 archetypes that were the Myers-Briggs are based on. So all of us inside of us have the opposite sex. So did you see the man looking in the mirror and he sees a woman? Am I sharing? Yes? No? Yes? Okay.
Part
You
of the
see
pic,
it?
it's cut off at that part.
Okay, so let me see if I can.
You can see the anima, the guy standing, but you can't see what he's looking at.
Gotcha. Let me make it a little bit smaller then. Did that help?
Yes.
Okay. So you see the man looking in the mirror and he sees a female. This is not a gender dysphoria question or cisgender question. Okay. This is way before then. What Jung said is all of us have the opposite sex inside of us. So I am a female. So inside of me, there's a man. The ma will always be the female. See that shadow there? Those devil's horns? I'm sure I'm the only one in the group that has some things in my closet that I'm not going to share. All of you are probably perfect people and never did anything wrong. I, on the other hand, have some things I ain't going to share with you. Okay? The persona, that's the mask. That's the world, the picture I want you to see. You guys see my Facebook? My life is perfect, isn't it? Oh my gosh, my life is so perfect. I travel around the world and my kids say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And everything is amazingly perfect in my life. On my Facebook page, stick around. You will find out that is not true, right? But I'm going to share with you on my Facebook page what life is really like. Did I mention today on Facebook that I got that certified letter from the IRS? No, I did not, because that's in the shadow. I'm not putting that part out there. No. And the self, of course, is hidden. I don't know, and you don't know. So those are the 4 archetypes where that Myers-Briggs comes from. So that's what you need to know regarding the Myers-Briggs and regarding the Jung, collective unconsciousness, not just mind, collectives, and the 4 archetypes that he used. Okay. That was the Myers-Briggs. Okay. The world of work map. The world of work map, it's still out there. We don't use it a lot. So it has nothing to do with the world. It really has nothing whatsoever to do with the world. What it looks at is the way that we look at the possibilities of careers. Okay. Again, do you see my screen, the world of work? I'll make it a little bit smaller so we can see everything. Okay. So at the top, we see working with data. These are the kind of jobs in 3 and 4 that are just working with data. If we go over data and things, so then look at some 4 and some 5, those are the careers that are working with things. Working with, I'm sorry, data and things. And you see things, ideas and things, ideas, people and ideas, and just people, and then people and data. That is the world of work map. Has nothing to do with where you live, has nothing to do with any geographical regions. Not sure who came up with this title, but that is what it means. World of work map. Okay. Yeah. You all seen the OOH? Occupational Outlook Handbook. Would anybody like to see the OOH?
Yes.
Q. Coolest thing ever. So I've used this before, even before it was actually online. It used to be kind of a book that you got every few years. But this is what it looks like now, totally online. So my youngest child, a couple of years ago, we talked about her being a pharmacist. Okay. And again, we're thinking, okay, maybe since COVID, things have changed. If you saw the news today, there was something about Walgreens cutting their hours because of the lack of pharmacists. Okay. But what we found out, and between this and talking to people, is that pharmacy is a dying profession. Okay. And again, so we're going to see when it was updated. It was updated last September of 2022. So less than 6 months ago. Right. So this is post-COVID. So what we look at is, hey, so the median pay in 2021, bad, $128,000 a year, not bad. A doctor of professional degree, no on-the-job training, the number of jobs, but look at the outlook. Only 2% of new jobs. So wanting to be a pharmacist in the future, that there's not a lot of opening for jobs. How come? Anybody know?
A lot of things are virtual. Nobody's
Not
really
necessarily,
going
not
out.
necessarily virtual, but they got the praxis machine, right? If you're my nurses or nurses, you punch in your code and the medicine just comes out.
Pops out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Even at the hospital, you know, when you go there, it pops out.
Yeah,
And the machine is doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And anybody got some compounding pharmacists in your area? Do you still have one of those, 2 of those? We have to actually compound it and make it yourself and not anymore.
I guess we'll still have a job. We'll still be.
Well, let's see here. Let's see what your future looks like. Let's be, come on. You seem pretty sure, don't you?
I'm hoping.
So I'll put in counselor.
I did notice that the last time that I was in the hospital, that normally they don't send you home with the medication from the pharmacy in the hospital, but this time they made sure that you had your medication before you left the hospital. and all of that. And I was really shocked because normally the hospital don't want to fool with handing out prescriptions
They don't.
before you leave. But
Absolutely.
they made sure like I had a 90-day prescription of everything that. And
Girl,
even,
did you get like hydro, something good?
oh yeah, I got Oxy.
Oh, you got my number? I did not say that on the recording, did I?
Oh, it'll be all right.
So-
It was a joke. Don't jump on her.
It doesn't matter. I'll get jumped on anyway. So anyway, do you know that we really think that addiction happens now as soon as like 5 to 7 days? And of course, with the lawsuits, we know that the product maker knew that forever. So if you go to the my dentist does not even have a DA number. I'm like, you gonna put all this metal in my mouth and I can't get another Tylenol? So because of what has happened. And again, we do believe that the research says that the makers knew all along that it was extremely addictive, but did not bother to share that with any of us. Right? Because I'll make more money if you need it. And I'm not saying you're an addict. Please don't call me out, guys. My life is hard enough. Please don't. Okay, so let's look at substance abuse and mental health counselors. Now, this one only talks about a master's degree. Let me go back and see if I can pull up some licensed counselors. So I really like this in general, as A for the test and B in general. If you've got your own clients you're working with, if you have got, your own kids or things in your life and you're like, people like, I don't know what I want to do. So let's see. I always go back and say, let's see if LPC comes. I want to go with marriage and family therapist because that's a licensed one. There we go. Well, let's go with that one. 2021 median pay was $50,000. You have to have a master's degree. Oh, look at that drop. 14%, much faster than average. We can look at by job outlook only. So if we want to know in general, like what jobs are going to have a huge outlook or going to have a huge opening in the future, we can look at that. Back to home. Go to my data tools. And we'll look at okay, I don't want to waste your time on this, but definitely you can come back and you can look at what the fastest growing jobs are. Okay, so let's see here. The growth rate projected. If I want to look that's much faster than average, I can see. Purchasing managers. Oh, an actuary. You know what actuary is? An
mathematician.
They tell me how much I'm worth when I'm dead. Right? So yes, a math job. Okay, so again, those are the jobs by alphabetical order. Oh, look at that. Bartenders. Bartenders are much faster than average. Just saying. Okay, and you can go through and you can definitely look what's there. But the OOH tells you everything but where to get the training. Okay. 8, limitations to early career theorists included which of the following? Lack of studies of women minorities, non-comprehensive theories, and a focus on white educated males. So we know that D is the answer. On the real test, you will not see D, but know that when it comes to career or any other theories, it really was based on not minorities, not women, and they weren't necessarily always comprehensive. Super study, when he looked, only included like 25 men. It wasn't even a huge study. Okay. Number 9, which of the following are included in Holland's personality types? Anybody? Chat box? Okay. So are I realistic, investigative, and social? Creative, social, enterprising. I know B is out because creative wasn't a term. It was artistic, right? Conventional, realistic, and helping. I know that's out. Entrepreneurial, social, and artistic. So it should be between A and D. Okay, so the E in REASAC stands for enterprising. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I know that A is my answer. Okay. Tiedemann O'Hara, they're very, very heavy on the test. I've heard from most of my clients. If you don't know them, be sure that you go pick them up. Tiedemann O'Hara talked about making sure that we understood there were 2 levels. Worry about getting my job and worry about keeping my job. So the question says, Tiedemann and O'Hara's developmental model encompassed which 3 concepts? Okay. So let me just kind of go back and pick up. So when I see ego and ego identity, he was not a Freudian. We talk about ego. We talk about who we are as people, my ego strengths. Tiedemann O'Hara talked a lot about just worrying about getting my job and keeping my job. There were 2 phases, and in both of those phases, then of course, there were stages in those phases. So my first one would be exploration, choice, crystallization, and clarification. Worried about getting my job. The second one, of course, is keeping my job. Induction, reformation, integration. So when I first get my job, I'm inducted there, right? Am I going to say anything most often the first day? Okay, not me, but some of y'all people will, walking like a bull in a china shop. Most of us, we're going to be like just inducted. We're not going to say anything. Reformation is the change that'll happen in the company, the change that'll happen with me. And then it's not until the integration stage where I don't feel like I'm so new anymore that I'll actually begin to say something or make some decisions there. That's Tiedemann and O'Hara. So 10. You're like, what? There are only 3, he only mentioned 2 stages. So what are the 3 concepts? Finding my job and keeping my job. Okay. The 3 concepts are differentiation, integration, and ego identity. The ego identity is that last stage when I feel like I'm actually ready to say something. So differentiation, right? Anticipating how to get my job. And then I'm going to not say anything, my ego identity. That's that second stage. And the third one is when I'm actually ready to say something. Okay. Number 11, when working with individuals in the LGBT community, it's important for a counselor to do what? A, I don't have to be an active member. I can be, but I don't. It doesn't make me a better career counselor whether I am or not. B, assist the client in locating gender neutral jobs. C, consult with other professionals and refer out when necessary. And D, reach out to employers to provide education about discriminatory hiring processes. So D is not correct because D says when working with an individual. D is about working with the community. It doesn't say working with the individual. And so I know A and D are out. So now between B or C. It's very common to get down to those two. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do? What's my answer? Norvette, why did you pick C? You're right, by the way. Just tell me why you're right. What word?
I'm gonna consult with other professionals
Why?
about, because I may not be really sure about what to do. So I'm gonna talk to some other professionals and see what have they done, what's best practices, what have you done in this situation? What kind of suggestions or information can you give me to assist me in this
And
situation?
that is true. But when I get down to the 4, I'm trying to find the best of the 4. And the B is just not right. Why is B not right? Anybody else? Why is B not right?
I didn't choose B because it seemed like it was something, you know how, I don't want to say being prejudiced,
It's discriminatory.
discriminatory.
Oh, you are thinking so hard. Well, that is just, what are you thinking? LGBTQIA. Is that always my gender?
No.
It is not. It is not. What I have between my legs is not my sexual orientation. So that doesn't answer my question. Gender neutral, I can be a woman and I can be a lesbian. It has nothing to do with my gender. LGBTQIA is the spectrum of my gender as well as my sexual orientation. So
You're right.
B does not answer my question.
Dr. Pam, can you give us what that IA is again?
Oh, I can give you my list of what it's, and it may have changed today, but that is the one that we teach. And I can pull it up for you. I will, when I put it out in an email, I'll make sure that I'll have printed, send it out. I have a form that just talks about the list.
It stands for intersex and asexual.
Thank you very much.
You're
What are those things? What is intersex?
Intersex, isn't that when somebody has both
Yes,
downstairs?
absolutely. We used to call it hermaphrodite. Is that a good term now?
No.
Absolutely. Intersex means I have both male and female parts or male and female chromosomes. Inter, both parts. And asexual, what? What is that? When I put A in front of the word, it negates the word. So people that are asexual are not interested in sex. But my sexual orientation, who I sleep with, who excites me, has nothing to do with what my gender is. I am cisgender. I have vagina, I have breasts, I feel like I'm a girl. Okay. Gender dysphoria is when I feel like it doesn't match. I have breasts, I have vagina, but I believe that I'm a boy. So my gender is not my sexuality. So that's what makes B not right. It is more than my gender. That makes sense? And what I'll get on, oh my gosh, Dr. Pam, we had 17,000 questions on career. This is not a career question, that's a diversity question. Okay. Number 12, Krumbolt's theory of plan happenstance suggests which of the following? A, many factors of life are outside of our control. It's essential to develop coping skills. Opportunities can be created from a negative situation. And this again is one that the best answer is D, but you will not see D on the question. You're not going to see all those. But plan happenstance, make a plan, right? Something better comes along. It's okay. 13, positive certainty is a paradoxical approach to decision making. What does paradoxical approach mean? The paradox, what?
Defies logic.
The opposite. The paradox is the opposite. So most often we're going to see that in strategic family therapy. Strategic family therapy is when we tell someone they've been coming to therapy for weeks and they keep fighting, and we say, go home and try this and try that. And they say, oh, it's not working. So we say to them, you know what? Go home and fight for 4 hours out loud as often as you can. The paradox is the opposite. So lay people would say reverse psychology. Not you guys, because you're professionals, but lay people say reverse psychology. If we talk about the medication that has the paradoxical approach, that would be Adderall or Ritalin or any of my stimulants, right? That approach works well. So if I am actually ADD or ADHD and I take a stimulant, it actually calms me down, helps me focus. But if I'm not, it makes no sense. If I'm already ADHD, why would you give me a stimulant? Because it has the opposite effect. That's paradox. Okay. So positive uncertainty is a paradox approach to decision making. What are its two main beliefs? A, the future is uncertain and one must be positive as uncertain. B, the future is certain and it must be accepted. C, the future is uncertain and anxiety is a natural result. And D, the future is unpredictable and can be changed. It's a reading test. It is not a thinking test. It's just a reading test. So what is my answer for 13? My doggies are like, we're tired, mommy. We got to go. Y'all got to go. They got to go. Future is uncertain and be positive. It's uncertain. If I ask most of you 15 years ago, is this where you thought you'd be? Most of us not. And I've been in the profession for 30 years. I've been in academia fully for the last almost 17 years. And I can tell you, most of my students in my classroom and in my business, something happened in their life that they decided they need to come back and do something in the helping profession. Somebody helped them, some baggage happened, and I felt the need to come back and change other people's lives. Okay, I gotta let you go. My doggies are like, mama, mama, mama. These people have had enough of your time. Okay, so I'm going to, any questions in general, any questions that I can answer in less than 2 seconds? Great. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It is high in careers. I'm not going to pretend. However, I don't think it's as necessarily as high as everyone thinks. I think that what I hear is most of my students just don't know it. If you use the purple book does not do justice to super. Yes, 3 different career theories, and the purple book just doesn't. It doesn't give him justice. And if you're new with me, you might have heard me mention 17, 25, 37 million times. The purple book is not the best book to study. At some point it was, but the test questions are not written the way they are currently in the purple book. I'm a huge fan of the Hellwig book. That's what we use and teach from. If you tutor with us individually or any of our group sessions, anything that's not in the Hellwig book, we'll go back and pick up. I'm always going to study or test you from different questions. So you get used to seeing the questions differently. And the purple book, the questions are just not written that simple. I've never seen anybody on test that says, who is Freud? Right. So it's about applying what you've learned. And there definitely was a time that was the best book, definitely a time in that. But after the test changed in the middle of COVID, it became more application, the way that all the other tests are. So if you're looking at the NCHMC, the 5-letter one, or the end of the other tests, they're all about application. So all that happened is this test just caught up with everybody else. And the study material did not necessarily keep up with that. So any questions, guys? Can I go? One of these days, I want to end on time because I want to have a date, just so you know. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My
Bye.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Good night.